Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Rocket Classic Initial Research Show. Boy, I hope your travelers went a lot better than mine did. I didn't get anything right, seemingly. Scotty Scheffler played extremely well, which caused my week to be over basically from the start. I did get Harry Hall right. Justin Thomas was there, but Victor Hovland's withdrawal definitely hurt. The tournament definitely played a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to, with the wind on Friday and today. So just not was not a very good week for yours truly. I hope you had a lot more success than I did. And then we are going to try and get on the right foot for the Rocket Classic in Detroit for this week as we quickly come up to the final major of the year, the Open Championship at Portrush. But we are here for the Rocket Classic, so let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research every Monday regarding some course information for that week, previous champion patterns of that tournament, players in the field that also fit those patterns. Did that for the Travelers last week. I did some early research for the Rocket Classic, and there isn't a lot of consistency. So I'll try to have something out there tomorrow. Might not have anything or might not find anything for consistency. But normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see the players I'm wagering, the guys I'm using most often in my lineups, go give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I cannot recommend it enough. And by following him over on social media, you're going to be able to see our detailed write-ups week after week. We started this way back at the Century for 2025. It's been the 2025 Picks Challenge. As of right now, I have a 3-point lead on Gabe. We'll see how that fares after my disaster of a week at the Travelers. So make sure you're following over on social media and subscribe to his article. You really are missing out on a lot of great information by not doing so. And then lastly, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. How was your Travelers? Hopefully you played all of the Russell Henley. Well, how do you feel about Tommy Fleetwood? Were you backing Tommy? All of that, would love to hear from you in that regard. And then moving forward to the Rocket Classic, who is your early favorite? What do you know of the course? So jump into chat with any thoughts and ideas that you have. And then, as always, if you're not able to catch the show live, make sure you put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 Rocket Classic. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Sunday evening over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet. And let me center this camera just a little bit there. As I mentioned, we are in Detroit, Michigan at Detroit Golf Club. It's going to say the North Course. This is a composite property, I guess. This has two 18-hole setups at Detroit Golf Club. Now, 17 of the holes will be on the North Course, but this has been pretty typical. 16 holes are at the North Course. Hole 3, tournament hole number 3, is actually played from the north number 1 tee to the south number 1 green. But everything else is on this North Course. But we're at Detroit Golf Club. This is a Don Ross design. We had some renovation earlier this year by Tyler Ray, but this is an original Don Ross design, so we might take a look at some Don Ross filters in Fantasy National. Detroit Golf Club North Course is a mid-length par 72, 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, measuring just under 7,400 yards, 7,370 yards. We are on bent and Poa annua greens, just like we were last week at the Travelers. And we're on bent and Poa annua throughout the course, with the exception of the rough, which is this bluegrass mix that is pretty prevalent throughout the Midwest. We saw it at Oakmont. It is long, but it's not going to be nearly as difficult as Oakmont for obvious reasons. It's not going to be as difficult as the Travelers either. Some other notables about the course: the greens, small, not as small as the Travelers on average, but small compared to the PGA Tour average. 5,150 square feet. A little bit of fairway, average fairway width 30 yards, about average. Maybe a little bit wider than average, but that's not what makes this course easy, as we'll get into. So a little bit of fairway, quite a bit of rough, but there's only one hole with water in play. So yeah, there's a look at the Detroit Golf Club from a GCSA standpoint. Let's see, new drainage systems were installed, pumping stations, all that. I don't know of much change to the course over the past few years, other than before the 2023 tournament. So I don't think there's been major changes for this year. And then some other things here. We're on Benton Poa annua, like I mentioned. It's neither in the longest or shortest courses, not in the smallest or largest greens. Pretty nondescript course, in my opinion. Biggest thing is we are on a Don Ross design. Hey, good evening, Derek. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. I had to stop by and say hi. I hope you had better luck than me this weekend. Well, I was hoping you had better luck than me this week, because my week was not very good. I didn't, I accrued some money back, but it was definitely a losing week. 25 on Tommy, cashed 1,400, and was gutted to see him choke. That was one of the things I mentioned in the intro. What were some of the thoughts regarding Tommy? Having a 3-shot lead going into Sunday, which, to be fair to Tommy Fleetwood, the Travelers and TPC River Highlands has lended itself to major comebacks over the years. But to have a 1-shot lead on 18, Russell Henley's chip in on 18 was incredible. Keegan's approach, all that. So I know you're a big Tommy guy. You have to feel for him, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Tommy moving forward after we've seen him have so many runner-up finishes, but I don't think he's really been in that strong of a position to win, at least over here stateside. Do you think he bounces back? That is tough to say, because he's definitely not in the field this week. We'll get into that. This generally does not draw a good field or prime names, as everyone's getting ready to go over to the Scottish Open and then the Open Championship. Do I think he bounces back? I mean, he is one of the best players in the world, but you have to be naive to think that this won't affect him in some way. That would be my stance on that. But hate to hear that you didn't have a good week, Derek, because mine was bad. Like I said, I had quite a bit of Victor Hovland. His withdrawal hurt. I knew I was taking a big chance with Scotty. Scotty played well. I wasn't going to do well. I was right on Harry Hall. I was really banging the drum for Harry Hall. He finishes tied for 9th. So hopefully, you played quite a bit of Harry Hall. But, I didn't have very much Keegan. I didn't have very much Russell Henley. Had very little or no Tommy. So, it just wasn't a very good week for yours truly. Tough loss. Look at wounds and have a nice week. Exactly. So, just again, a very quick recap here of Detroit Golf Club. Mid-length par 72, 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s. We're on Benton Poa annua again. So we'll take a look at those same 3 courses that we did last week for the Travelers in terms of putting surface. Small greens, but not necessarily very difficult. Only 1 hole with water in play. And the biggest thing is this is a Don Ross design. So we'll take a look at some Don Ross filters in Fantasy National. All right, with that, we'll move now to Fantasy National. And let's look at all rounds. There are a few names here as of, early on a Sunday evening. I'll say early on a Sunday evening, but, early on this week. Been on Akshay Bhatia, Keegan Bradley, so far has committed to playing. Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa is here. Both of the Højgaard brothers. There's Morikawa there. So you have a few names here, but you can see not a whole lot in terms of premier talent on the PGA Tour. Like I said, most premier players take this week off, get prepped for the Scottish Open and the Open Championship. So in fact, your top performers in the past 36 rounds in the field this week, Isaiah Salinda is your number 1, coming in off of a miscut at the Canadian Open, but played well at the Byron Nelson. Houston going back into March and April. So I mean his statistics are quite a bit older, but technically the number 1 total performer. Seamus Power, Ben Griffin, Colin Morikawa, Keegan Smalley, Cantlay, Harry Hall, Siwoo Kim, who did withdraw from the Travelers, so we're going to have to be mindful and really pay attention to some field changes throughout the week. I could see several of these players deciding not to play. And then last is Ryo Hitsatsune. There have been already 2 field changes. The first is Christian Bezuidenhout, and then Tim Whiting has also decided to not play after originally committing to playing this week in Detroit. First thing we'll do, let's just take a look at Don Ross designs. This is a Don Ross design. I'll have to expand the time frame here. We're going to go probably all the way back to 2022, because right now it's only including Detroit and Sedgefield, and then there's a little bit of Eastlake in here for some of the players who have made it to the Tour Championship. So on Don Ross designs, going back to the beginning of 2022, your top performers in the field this week: Davis Thompson, Cam Young, Luke Clanton, Adam Hadwin, Ben Griffin, Cam Davis, Eric Cole, Wyndham Clark, Tom Kim, and Colin Morikawa. All right, I'm going to save a couple of these other things for after we look at the course breakdown. So let's go ahead and do that in Fantasy National. Take a look at Detroit Golf Club from a scorecard and graphical view. The one big thing that you need to remember about Detroit Golf Club is generally it's pretty darn easy. The way you can tell that, like I look for even par here, like 9th and 10th most difficult holes. You look, and that's the average difficulty of the course. Both of those are still playing under par. 4th most difficult, slightly over. 5th most difficult, slightly over. 6th most difficult, slightly over. 7th, slightly over. So, but what you will see, in like the toughest hole, 233 long par 3, it is difficult, but it only plays the 1500ths of a shot over par, and you're quickly getting into, in the hundredths, 600ths, 200ths, 700ths, etc. Whereas these par 5s especially are quite gettable. The only one that's not per se is the par 5 4th at 635. Doesn't yield a whole lot of eagles, but it is still a good birdie opportunity playing to a quarter of a shot under par. All the rest of the par 5s are quite gettable. 4/10 of a shot under par, third of a shot under par, half a shot under par. Eagle rates all above 2%. Par fives here are generally really, really gettable at Detroit. You also have several shorter par fours. The par four first plays to 15/100ths under par, 2/10 under par. Let's see. Par 4 10th, 13/100ths under par. So a lot of good scoring opportunities around Detroit Golf Club. Like I mentioned, that whatever length in the course, you have that one extremely long par 5. You have the one extremely long par 3 at 233. Otherwise, fairly decent mix of short and mid-length par 4s. You have everything from 393, 372 even, to 489. So good mix of short and medium length par 4s. Par 5s, I would say mid-length par 5s. Everything's over 550, but 552, 555, 577. So we're not dealing with a long course, but it's certainly close to the precipice of being considered a long course. We take a look at strokes gained by shot type for our top 10s. You see, this is a tournament dominated by putting because, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, this is pretty darn easy. 22.5% birdie rate, only 12% bogeys, doubles not really all that prevalent, eagles not really all that prevalent either. So when you get a course that's really, really easy, a lot of times it can turn into a putting contest. So putting, approach, surprising to see off the tee and around the green be equal in this regard. Top 5s, around the green, actually a little bit more than off the tee, but the putting is by far and away the biggest contributor. And then for your winners, they are outperforming the around the green, as you can see. You think of our winners at the Detroit Golf Club the past few years. Our defending champion is Cam Davis. He has won this event twice. Tony Finau has won this. Bryson DeChambeau has won this. You can think distance, and that's fine. We'll have the data to back that up, especially tomorrow. But they are generally pretty darn good off the tee. And that's what's really carrying here for these winners. But make no mistake, this does turn into a putting contest a lot of times. Strokes gained by hole by par. Like I mentioned last week at the Travelers, with 4 par 3s and only 2 par 5s, I was a little surprised to see the par 3s be quite mitigated at the Travelers, but they just were. This is less surprising considering there's 4 par 5s for these professionals to take advantage of. You see the 5s far outweighing the 3s. We move up the leaderboard to the top 5s. Par 3s actually do carry quite a bit of weight from the top 10s. And then for your winners, it's just nothing. It's just nothing there. It's all in the par 5s, maybe some in the par 4s. So I'll be interested to see when we go to the data dive tomorrow and really dig into Detroit Golf Club how that data looks. All right, moving on down here. Hole composition. We got 2 short par 3s, a long par 3, and a very long par 3. We've got quite a few short par 4s. I don't think any of them are drivable, though. Again, the shortest I saw was 372, 393, 397, 393. So not really drivable, but several very short par 4s, 2 mid-length, 4 long, and then your par 5s, 3 from 550 to 6, 1 behemoth at 635. Approach shot distribution, because all of these par 5s get attacked in 2, you see the 200 plus approaches. But you do have several, and I mean several, wedge opportunities here with the plethora of short par 4s around Detroit Golf Club. So good mix of approach shot distribution, but at least against the tour average, we're more looking at wedges. Historic cut line, just to highlight just how easy Detroit Golf Club has been. -3 has been the cut the past couple of years. -2 a couple times. It started at -4. This is really easy. It's easy around Detroit Golf Club. So, again, another week where I'm going to be focused on guys who can just go low. And if it plays more difficult, I'll be weak to it. Because historically, it just has not been that kind of tournament. We already talked about the scoring distribution. You see just the amount of birdies versus bogeys. Accuracy, or players hitting fairways, much higher than the average tour event. Players are hitting greens at a much higher rate. Scrambling's much easier here, or players are much more successful scrambling. It's just easy. It's just easy around Detroit. Distance is higher, even though accuracy is higher than the average tour event, so is the distance. I mean, this is just not a very difficult challenge for these professionals. So there's a look at Detroit Golf Club from a scorecard and graphical view. We'll come back to the players in the field this week at the Rocket Classic because of what we just looked at. Let's take a look at easy performance. When rounds are easy relative to par, your top performers in the field this week going back to last year: Seamus Power, Ben Griffin, Colin Morikawa, Siwoo Kim, Davis Thompson, Harry Hall, Luke Clanton, Patrick Cantlay, Ryo Etsatsune, and Michael Kim. I think that's pretty much what we're going to do in terms of, these overarching filters. We looked at Don Ross, looked at easy. This is right at 7,370, so not really looking at any long course metrics. I don't like looking at this, medium length filter that much. So let's take a look at a couple other things. Other than the winners, the off the tee hasn't really mattered, so let's skip that and just go into approach. Your top approach players in the field this week, the last 36 rounds, so long as it's been this calendar year: Colin Morikawa, Henrik Norlander, Patrick Cantlay, Sandy Valimaki, John Pack, Keegan, Joel Damon, Jackson Subert, Emiliano Grillo, and Ben Griffin. Now, I will be fully transparent here. I have not looked at any of the field changes since about 7:30. So if any other players have decided to withdraw, feel free to put it in chat or put it in the comments. For my information, for the viewers' information, I just haven't looked since about 7:30 Eastern, about 2 hours ago. The only other thing we'll look at in terms of strokes gained, let's take a look at putting. Top putters the last 36 rounds: Danny Willett, Sam Ryder, Jacob Bridgman, Brandt Snedeker, Harry Hall, Nico Echeverria, Zach Johnson, Cameron Young, Andrew Putnam, and Eric Cole. Now, Eric Cole did also withdraw from the Travelers today, so it's going to be important to see who ends up committing to playing and who drops out. But we also want to look at performance on Bent and Poa annua. So we'll start with Detroit Golf Club. We'll move to Silverado, host of the Fortinet, and where we were last week, TPC River Highlands. Those are the 4 courses per the GCSAA that have Bent and Poa annua greens. We're going to look all the way back to 2022 just to make it statistically significant. Your top putters on Bent and Poa annua in the field this week: Keegan, Adam Hadwin, Dylan Wu, Ben Silverman, Ricky Fowler, Taylor Moore, Patrick Cantlay, Chandler Phillips, Vincent Whaley, and Justin Lauer. Is the Travelers in here? No. Okay. It's interesting to see 2025 as an option because the Travelers isn't in here yet. All right. We'll move to... let's just take a look at some scoring stuff here because it's been historically very, very easy. You had a couple rounds of average last year, but even so, I believe, 18. So played more to average than easy last year. 2023, 24 under in a three-way playoff. Ricky, Colin, and Hadwin. 2022, 26 under from Tony. 21, 18 under from Cam Davis. So, very easy. Very, very easy around here at Detroit Golf Club. So let's take a look at when rounds are easy, past year and a half or so, and I'm going to look at all rounds. Your top birdies or better gained players when rounds have been easy: Harry Hall, Hayden Springer, Luke Clanton, Joe Highsmith, Siwoo, Akshay Bhatia, Eric Cole, Eric Van Rooyen, Colin Morikawa, and Chan Kim. Yeah, I think that's a decent little segue here to move to Tournament History tab or Strokes Gained Total page view. Players who have performed the best at Detroit Golf Club in the past 5 years. You see our Strokes Gained Total leader and our defending champion is Cam Davis, two-time winner in the past 5 years. Also has a top 15 and a top 20. So he's played very, very well around Detroit Golf Club. And this was kind of the impetus of what I was mentioning last week when I said I've opened Cam Davis' season. Despite him not being in good form, this is generally the part of the schedule where he does most of his work. Travelers, he's had some success there, but Rocket Mortgage, John Deere, places like that. So Cam Davis has played very well here. Taylor Moore has been very good at Detroit. 3 top 10s, including 1 top 5. Chris Kirk's been very consistent here at Detroit Golf Club. Sorry, I didn't mean to highlight all of that. Chris Kirk's been very consistent. Ricky Fowler, winner 2 years ago. Cam Young hasn't been here much, but he's had a lot of success. Runner-up to Tony Finau 3 years ago and a 6th last year. Hadwin has been okay. Jaeger has 2 top 10s and a miscut last year. Tony Finau, former winner. Somebody like Kevin Kisner, quite boom or bust. Top 5, top 10, 2 miscuts. Alex Noren, top 5, top 10, 2 miscuts. So yeah, there's a look at some of the players who have performed well at Detroit. Players who haven't performed well at Detroit Golf Club: Harry Higgs, Ryan Brim, Joseph Bramlett, Grayson Sigg. Trying to find some notables here. Michael Kim, 1 for 3. Snedeker, 1 for 4. Matthew Neesmith, despite all of the iron play, we saw in the course breakdown how putting rules generally at Detroit Golf Club. Matthew Neesmith's not a great putter. Shows why he has not had a lot of success here. Peter Malnati has struggled other than having 1 top 10. Putnam has struggled 0 for 2. Generally a pretty solid putter. But look at these guys. Most of these players are not known for their putting, like Gary Woodland, Sami Valimaki, even though he's only 1 time. Doug Gim, very much not known for his putter. Zach Johnson is, but he's more like his wedges and stuff. Camilo Villegas, not known for his putter. Higo, not known for his putter. So you can see players who have really struggled here generally are not the best of putters. That's really kind of all I have in terms of an initial research show. I can go to Microsoft Excel for just a quick moment. Just take a look at some of the guys, their past performance. We'll really cover this tomorrow in the data dive, but, like Morikawa, Minwoo, Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young, all these guys haven't played very much. Like Taylor Moore, you see, he is by far and away leading in putting. Cam Davis has been pretty darn consistent just kind of everywhere. But a lot of these guys who have actually, you know what? Let's remove the guys who have only played it once. For guys who have played consistently here at Detroit year over year, they're gaining distance. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like tomorrow. Cameron Young, bigger hitter, but power's not. Taylor Moore, not really. Cam Davis is, but all of these guys have been hitting their irons pretty well here. Most of them have been putting extremely well. You see, even like Siwoo, not known for his putter, he's putt well here. Ricky's putt well here. Hadwin's just a good putter in general. Justin Lauer's put the daylights out here. So it'll be interesting to see, especially tomorrow in the data dive, how that looks. And then, as I mentioned at the top of the show, normally I post research regarding, that tournament of the week, some historical patterns of winners. I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't seen a whole lot of consistency here. So I'll try to come up with something and post on social media tomorrow. But I'm not making any promises because it's what little I've looked at has been very, very erratic. So I'll see if I can't try to find something. But that's going to be it for the show this evening. Again, a bit on the shorter end in terms of timing, but not a whole lot to talk about with Detroit. Generally, not. In fact, this is one of the stronger fields I have seen for Detroit, with Keegan and Batia, Ben on, Cantlay, Morikawa, Tony Finau here. This is a little bit of a stronger field than what I'm used to at Detroit, but it's a Don Ross design and it's pretty darn easy. That's what we're looking at until we really dig into the data tomorrow. So thanks to Derek for jumping into chat. Very, very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Last week was pretty bad at the Travelers, so I'm going to try and right the ship this week for the Rocket Classic. So hopefully your week and weekend went much better than mine in terms of any golf DFS and golf wagers that you made, and we'll try and get better this week. So thanks again for all the support, for all the wagers you made this past week for the Travelers, for all the DFS contests you played this past week for the Travelers, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.